Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. Yes, this is a radio show. I know you might be listening to it somewhere other than on your local radio station, and that's fine, but this is first and foremost an outdoor radio show, a 3-hour show based here in Michigan and covering primarily Michigan topics. I had somebody post online one time, yeah, we like that show, but he does a lot of Michigan stuff. Yes, I do a lot of Michigan stuff. I'm a Michigan guy. Michigan is my home. Michigan is where I love. Michigan is where I have spent my career. Michigan is where I do most of my outdoor recreating. And I don't apologize for that. Occasionally, we'll bring in another topic from outside of the state. But no, first and foremost, it is a Michigan outdoor radio show. And I am so glad to have you along with us. So what is the big topic this week? What is everybody talking about? Again, it's the weather. Again, it's the weather. Now, the forecast for next week is looking a little bit better. But man, it's been cold. They've had snow up north. It's been spitting snow down here. And it just seems crazy. Cold, spitting snow. It's been cold in the turkey blind, I can tell you that. Yes, I do continue to be out there and chase a bird. I don't have one yet. I am starting to think about fishing. I'm starting to get anxious, excited to get fishing. But you know what? If the weather's going to be like this, I would just as soon be sitting in a blind over decoys waiting on a longbeard as I would be out in the middle of Saginaw Bay in the cold and the wind. Now, that's going to change here pretty soon. But for now, I'm still out there a bird. Just to recap, I did miss a bird opening morning. That may have been my chance. We'll see how the season wraps up. Once I switch over to a fishing mode, I may just abandon the turkeys if I don't have one by then. But that may have been my opportunity for the season. I don't think so. I don't feel like it. Because there are birds around where I'm hunting. I did think, though, maybe that I had been educating the birds on my primary property, my #1 property, my buddy Doug's property. And so I put some feelers out. Now, I don't have any land of my own. I don't have any property of my own. I'm not blessed in that area. But I am blessed to have friends who have property. And I know people who know people. And I put out some feelers and I said, hey, I think I educated the birds on my #1 property, and I'm looking for another piece of land that might have some turkeys that people might be willing to let me hunt. And I did come up with a piece of property. I won't give you his name because I didn't ask him if I could, but he's got a beautiful piece of land and it's loaded with birds. And he says, yeah, you can hunt back here. They took their birds opening morning. So they're not back there turkey hunting now. And they said they've got more birds. I said, yes, if you will allow me to hunt your property, I will thank you very much, and I will do that. So I moved over to a new piece of land where there are a lot of birds. You can see them on trail camera. You can see the scratching. I mean, there are birds there. So I set up the Wraith out there, that Primal Outdoors Wraith 270 see-through ground blind, which is my go-to blind for turkey hunting and bear hunting and deer hunting. I love the fact that you can see out and, things basically can't see in. If the sun hits this thing just right and you're moving around inside of it, yeah, they can see a little something. But in most cases, in most situations, you're pretty well hidden in there. So I set up the Wraith, And I put two. So this is the first morning I hunted out there. In fact, I think this was last weekend. I've been hunting so much I kind of lose track of the days. Every day that I can be out there, I have been. The first morning on this new piece of property, I had 2 hen decoys in front of me. I used the Avian X decoys. They are very realistic. They look like real birds, and I do find that they are more effective than some of the cheaper foam decoys I have used in the past. So I put 2 decoys out there in front of me. I'm out there real early, because I thought I don't want to mess anything up. I know there are birds on this property. I'm cautiously optimistic. The landowner and his friend said, Avery, you're going to be done. He's going to be an hour hunt. I said, don't say that. That's the kiss of death. Don't tell me I'm going to be done in an hour, because that means it's not going to happen. So I'm sitting out there. I hear birds gobble. They're gobbling a little farther away than I would have liked, but they're gobbling nonetheless. So I know there are indeed birds roosted out there. I didn't say anything to them. I just let the morning wake up. I thought, okay, I don't want to educate these birds. If they're moving through here on their own, I will just sit back and let Mother Nature do her thing. And she did. Oh, about a half hour before it broke daylight, I see some birds moving through the woods. I can't tell what they are with the naked eye. I put the binos on them, and I can see some hens. I can see several hens, and I'm thinking, oh boy, this time of year, if there's a flock of hens moving my direction, more likely than not, there's a longbeard behind them. There's a tom behind them. I see them moving closer. And no, there's not a longbeard in there. A flock of hens, but still, okay, I'm happy because they're moving my direction. They come in, they get to the decoys, a couple of them puff up, they purr, they putt. They're really fascinated by my decoys. The one comes over, she puffs up a little bit, and she's posturing for the decoys. She walks over, she pecks at it. And then I realize in this flock of hens, there's a hen with a beard. Now, in Michigan, the law doesn't say you can shoot a hen or a tom. The law says in the spring hunt, any bearded bird is a legal target. And this beard on this hen must have been, 5-6 inches long. It was pretty good, pretty obvious beard. So I had a legal target in front of me. I decided, no, even though it would be legal, it would be completely ethical, legitimate target. No, I'm not going to shoot a bearded hen. And nothing against that. It's a legal target. If somebody chooses to shoot a bearded hen or a jake, God bless you. Absolutely. But I didn't want to. I wanted to hold out for one of the long beards that I knew were in the area. So nothing that morning. I hunted again the next morning in the cold, in the rain, heard some more gobbles, called in some more hens, no longbeards, and I thought, okay, I got to make a move. I think I know where the birds are roosted. At least I can hear where they're roosting. So I moved closer to the roost. I thought if I can get these, birds coming off the roost, or at least, soon off the roost, maybe I can get one of these longbeards, because I can hear them gobbling. I can hear several birds gobbling, maybe 3 birds gobbling to the northwest of me and another one gobbling straight west. So I make a move. I go closer towards them. The morning that I'm in there closer, again, they're gobbling, and they're gobbling like crazy. Finally, the birds are starting to gobble a little bit. But it's cold. It's rainy. I'm surprised they're gobbling this much. Even when they hit the ground, they continue to gobble, and I thought, boy. So then I started to talk to them a little bit, and I got one to respond, and I thought, here we go. Long story short, it didn't happen. But that's okay. There's a lot of time. And wouldn't you know it, once I moved to this new property, the birds on the old property that I was worried about educating, they've been hanging back and around where I had my blind set up. So I think I might go set a blind back up there. So I got 2 choices. I got 2 options. I got the new property that has a lot of birds on it. I just haven't seen a longbeard on it yet. I've got the old property where the birds are strutting all over the place now. So I'm cautiously optimistic that I can still make this happen. And as long as the weather stays cold and crappy, I'm going to keep turkey hunting. When it gets nice, then I'm going to be jonesing to get back out on the water. So what else is going on? May here in Michigan. It is the time to apply for your Michigan bear and elk tag if you so choose. and I so choose. I will put in for the third season in Newberry as my first choice, and I will put in for an elk tag knowing that I won't get an elk tag. There's only 260 elk tags available and 100,000 or so people who apply? I don't know, 80,000, whatever the number is. I apply knowing I won't get one. But every year, somebody who applies for the first time gets one. 260 people will. It won't be me, but I applied anyway. Bear, 50-50. 50-50. If I don't get one this year, I will get one next year. But again, I'm heading to White River, Ontario here in just a few weeks, so I think we can make it happen up there. I will try to increase my odds of success by applying for the Pure Michigan Hunt. You know, if you win that, you get your elk tag, you get your bull elk tag, you get your bear tag. So we'll see. I'm laying the groundwork here. I'm laying the groundwork for the fall hunting season and starting to get ready for the springtime fishing season. Just need Mother Nature to cooperate. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show after the break, a good friend of mine, Jeff Poet of Jay's Sporting Goods. I want to talk about Jay's, want to talk about the sporting goods industry, the outdoor industry, and Jeff has an adventure coming up. I want to hear more about that. Then Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. We haven't talked to Tom for a while. In hour number 2, the Yakmaster, Dave Mull, talks about kayak fishing and why it's so popular these days. Then Nick Green of MUCC, I suspect he wants to talk about Camp Grayling. And in our third hour, Richard P. Smith talking about how this late winter is affecting UP deer, talking about how you should apply for a Michigan bear tag. And of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. That's all coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan, including WZTK in Alpena. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain on WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Killer Food Plots. It is the time to start. I know. You look out there and you go, well, I don't want to put in a food plot yet. It's still wintertime out there. Well, it's going to change. The weather's going to change here soon, right? And then it'll be time to rock and roll on your food plots. I recommend the folks at Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based Killer Food Plots. Rich Krazan has been on the show here a couple times recently. I'll get him on here in the next couple of weeks to talk more about this, about how to get ready to put in your food plots, how to put in a food plot, and lots more, right? Because look at food plotting is a big deal these days. A lot of people are putting in food plots. A lot of people don't know what they're doing. I don't either. So that's why I go to Killer Food Plots. I would encourage you to check out the website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. While you are online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That website is really just kind of basically a portal to all my social media outlets. So you can get to everywhere from there, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And then jump over to this website, JaysSportingGoods.com. That, of course, is the website of family-owned Michigan-based outdoor superstore, Jay's Sporting Goods. You know about Jay's. Listen, I've talked about my relationship with Jay's. I don't hide it. Jay's is the company that made it possible for me to be here today. The folks at Jay's were willing to take a chance on Mike Avery years ago when I had an opportunity to go out on my own and do something. I went to them and I said, I have this opportunity. I don't know if I can do it. I'm nervous about it. What do you think? And they said, you can do it. We want you to do it. We will help you do it. And I've worked with them ever since. And now we're pushing 35, 40 years, whatever the number is. So that's why I have a strong loyalty to the folks at Jay's Sporting Goods and a strong loyalty to the Poet family. It was Jay Poet who started Jay's Sporting Goods, and it's Jeff Poet, Jay's son, who is at the helm running the company these days. And he's with me now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Jeff, welcome back to the show. How are you? Jeff, did we lose you? Jeff, you there? Oh, Charlie says he should be there. He's going to call him back, I think. Charlie? Yeah, I wish you could see Charlie's face right now. He's like, oh. Man, a whole build-up, and I don't know if Jeff even heard it or not. He's going to try us again. Pushing buttons. It's not a live show, but we Jeff, you there?
Yes, I'm here, Mike.
Excellent. Hey, listen, sorry for that. Did you hear what I was talking about?
I did. You're always more than gracious when it comes to our early beginnings together. Always brings back fond memories, though. It's been a great run. Hope it keeps going.
Yeah, I don't see any reason. For my sake and yours, I hope it keeps going.
Well, from our side, it's a great relationship. So, well, we love you.
I appreciate that. I feel the same way about you guys. How are things at Jay's these days? I mean, you got the big original store in Clare. You got I still call it a new store, but you've been in Gaylord for a long time now. Let me ask you this, and I ask you this every time I have you on. Is there any interest from the Poet family in putting another Jay's somewhere else in Michigan? Because you got cities across this state who'd love to see you there.
Oh, we always keep an eye out. It's just one of those deals where, Mike, to be honest with you, I'm at an age where we need to get the next generation that's probably going to be running Jay's to buy into this, because they're going to be the ones that are going to have to carry the ball with it. So that's kind of where it's at. Yep. And like I say, we're always kind of looking, but we're not. It's not at the top of that list right now.
Well, yeah, every city that has an abandoned Kmart wants Jay's.
That is true.
And I don't blame them. I mean, you have become a destination. You're an outdoor superstore. People heading up north, they got to stop by Jay's. You've done a great job in making that happen. What goes into this, Jeff? How do you create this thing that is Jay's Sporting Goods?
It starts, there's two key components to it. It's having really good people and having the right selection of merchandise. We know our market. We know Michigan. We've been doing it for a long time. You combine that with people that are passionate. Most of our folks participate in the sports that they're either selling or buying for our stores. And and location, we're 75 in Gaylord, and the crossroads of 10 and 127 in Clare have helped us as well. But those first two are the most two important elements.
Are those two markets different? Will we see a different gear in the Gaylord store as opposed to the Clare store? Probably 80 to 85% of it's the same. But there is some uniqueness just in the locale. It's funny how it's a little bit different, and it's hard for the buyers to figure that out. They have enough history now, but in the beginning it was very difficult. And we had a much smaller store in the beginning, so we really had to pare it down. Now we're on kind of equal footing as far as size and what we can get out. But for the most part, the selection is the same. How do you know what to put in the stores? Because there's a lot of product out there. I know for a fact every company that's in the outdoor industry who is selling something wants to be in Jay's, because they try to come through me to get into Jay's. I tell them I don't have that kind of authority. But how do you know what's going to sell, what people want?
Oh, it is a process, and believe me, we only carry a tip of the iceberg. If you've been to some of the big trade shows, which I know you have, Mike, you understand how large it is. So we have to begin from there and just kind of pare it down. Again, most of our buyers that are making those decisions, we have like 9 of them. So we're very selective. It's not like we have one buyer that buys for the entire store. So we got somebody, let's say for fishing, that's just buying fishing. So they're tuned in. And again, these guys participate. So they're on the water, they're fishing, they're using the equipment. We're listening to customers on what they're asking for that we may not have in the store. And you just keep adjusting your inventory to accommodate that. And I think we've done a pretty good job over the years.
All right, speaking of that inventory, thank God COVID is behind us. But for a couple of years there, things were really rough. How are things going now?
Oh, it's kind of done a 180. We have inventory now. COVID is over for us, and we're kind of back to those years prior to COVID, and we really have to kind of watch and be a lot more careful. We were in a mode through COVID, hey, if you could just buy it and get it, you were lucky and you'd sell it. Not the case now. There are still a few holes, especially I always use the ammunition as probably the best example. We've got a lot more ammo today, but we're still missing some calibers, that people continue to look for that we don't have. But it's filling in nice. But everything else is pretty much available.
One of the benefits, if there is such a thing, of COVID was it got people outside, it got people outdoors. There was more interest in hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and camping and biking and kayaking and all that good stuff. Is that continuing on, or are we starting to see that drop off?
I think we've probably lost a little bit of that, but we're hoping that we can retain enough that we've made a net gain at the end of the whole deal. And I think we're pretty close to be able to report on that. It feels like to me, I haven't seen any official numbers or anything. The DNR probably has licensed sales that could indicate, where that's at. But it has seemed to have held for us. So as far as sales and the customer foot traffic that we see.
Jeff, when you look at big picture, the world today, I mean, you and I grew up in hunting and fishing families. We grew up in the outdoors. That's our frame. I won't speak for you. That's my frame of reference. That's how I look at things. But, I know from your time at the Michigan Wildlife Council, you realize, as well as anybody, that's not the case across the state. It seems crazy to me that we have more people in our state who don't hunt, fish, shoot, and trap than we do who participate. Do you think we're moving in the right direction? Can we sustain this outdoor lifestyle for generations to come?
I surely hope we can. And there, like the Michigan Wildlife Council, there's some things in place because even if they don't participate, Mike, and I don't know if we're going to move those numbers much, but we need to educate them about the benefits of hunting and fishing and all the contributions that are made through licensed sales and federal excise taxes and, kind of what supports wildlife management and habitat. So it's really important that those folks that don't hunt and fish understand the benefits of those who do. And then, of course, obviously recruitment. We want more people to hunt and fish because it's harder. It's just a lot harder to compete for these young folks that maybe haven't had an opportunity to be in the outdoors, but we've got to make that first step, and that's pretty key. And there's a lot of good organizations that work hard at doing those kind of first steps. Say, let's get our youth involved and get them a taste, because once they do, Mike, you get hooked. No pun intended. But
no, absolutely. And that's a very interesting point you make. That look at we don't need. Obviously, we want people to hunt and fish, but we don't need people to hunt and fish to sustain our way of life as long as they accept what we do and are aware of what we do. I think that's the key, isn't it?
That is, yes, yeah, it is. It's just teaching them the benefits of, and to kind of respect hunters and anglers and what they do and what they contribute, because we do a tremendous amount, and most of us don't even know how much we contribute.
Yeah. We're talking with Jeff Poet of Jay's Sporting Goods, website jaysportinggoods.com, jaysportinggoods.com. Jeff, obviously you would encourage people to come into the stores, but what about the online business? Is it become a big part, a viable part of your business plan, people buying online?
It becomes more and more every day, and we've put a lot of resource into, I know that we came up quite short in our e-commerce presentation for a number of years, but we have made a concentrated effort to have it streamlined and, just better information, better pictures, and really give more of the selection that we have in the store. It's hard to do. We'll never have it all on because there's a lot of manufacturer agreements that, hey, they don't want it on, and we have to figure out, and navigate those wires. But it looks, 100 times better than it did 3 years ago.
Excellent. Hang tight, Jeff. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. Again, we're talking with Jeff Poet of Jay's Sporting Goods. jaysportinggoods.com. That's jaysportinggoods.com. We do have to take a break, but when we come back, I want to talk to Jeff about some of his hunting and fishing adventures because of his position in the outdoor industry. He's had a chance to do some pretty cool things, and he's got another pretty cool thing coming up here very soon. I want to talk with him about that. Again, Claire and Gaylord Love the folks at Jay's, love the Poet family. We'll take a break. Lots more coming up with Jeff Poet right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK. That's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Tawas on WIOS 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. That's twice each weekend. And you can hear us, let's go to Escanaba, WCHT 600 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest and Polar Craft headquarters. They sell great products. They have great people in a great location. Now, they're crazy busy right now. Crazy busy getting people on the water, getting boats ready. And they can help you out as well. Full service, marine service. MUCC dealer, MUCC technicians. They can get you on the water. They can keep you safe on the water. Great facilities and a great launch as well. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. While you are online, please head over to jsportinggoods.com. That is the website of Michigan-based, family-owned outdoor superstore, Jay's Sporting Goods. Jeff Poet is the guy who is running Jay's these days. But, Jeff, you do find some time to get out on some hunting and fishing adventures. You and I have talked in the past about some pretty cool things you've done, but you got something kind of a little bit out of the ordinary coming up. I think of you as a hardcore hunter. I don't think of you much as a fisherman, Jeff.
Well, I don't either, Mike. I just do a lot more hunting than I do fishing. You know, I go when people take me and stuff like that. But so I have 3 kids. I have 2 boys and a girl. And my daughter was at a banquet where they were auctioning off some stuff, and she happened to be there, and I think she was a little jealous of the 2 boys always going hunting with Dad, so she was whining a little bit, and so there was a fishing trip there, a bluefin tuna fishing trip. And she had spotted that, so, well, you know, that's something that we could do. And I thought, yeah, you know, that is. And it kind of sounds like some fun. So anyway, I did, make a long story short, I did end up buying that fishing trip on auction. So I'm taking my daughter, and actually we're taking a couple other family members and another friend along with us on this bluefin tuna trip.
Well,
to the East Coast.
East Coast. It does. It does sound like a lot of fun. And listen, as the dad of a couple of daughters, I understand when they look at you and go, "Dad," it's all over at that point, isn't it?
It is. You just okay, and especially if they've done a little homework and they got something lined up for you. But yeah. So we're going, and this is kind of the kickoff. The cool part about it, we're going with a Michigan charter. It's Real Respect Charters. And they're from Michigan. They're well known, you know, in this area for bluefin tuna. He's been doing it for a number of years, and so that's kind of cool, Michigan connection. And I didn't know that at the time when I got it. So it's all been kind of rolling out. We're kind of using this format today is to kind of kick off, letting everybody know that we're doing this, because it's just gained, you know, a lot of steam from the time I got it to, hey, we can share this with our customers. And so I think it's going to be a pretty cool deal.
I think it sounds like a riot. I love this Michigan connection. I'm curious how a Michigan charter captain ends up fishing tuna off the East Coast in the Atlantic.
You know, I don't know the full story, but Captain Darren, he's quite a guy. If you went to his website, Real Respect Charters, I'm sure it's there. But I don't either. I think he does some fishing on Lake St. Clair in the off season when they're not fishing for bluefin, which is kind of a summer deal. Mm-hmm. So and on top of that, we got in a tournament, and the benefits of that tournament proceeds go to Alzheimer's. So it's a win-win, and you know, we like to support that stuff. So it has really lined up well for us.
Actually, it's like everything kind of came together on this. I'm sure this is going to be a great trip, a great adventure. I can't imagine catching a tuna. I mean, a 30-pound king salmon will give you all the fights you want. I don't know how big these tuna get, but I've seen pictures. They're pretty good-sized fish.
Yeah, they're huge. Captain Darren had in the front of the Claire store for a couple of weeks. We had an event going on and set up as display so you can get your picture. They're monstrous, and it can take you. We've spent a lot of time talking to him, so it can take you anywhere from 15 minutes to 15 hours, Mike, to land one of these things. So the captain has to be on his game. People have to be in physical shape you know what it's like to, keep reeling that thing in with that kind of weight on there. So I have been diligently trying to work out, and I've encouraged my daughter to, do what she can do. She doesn't like working out a lot, so I keep poking her about that a little bit. Hey, what have you done today?
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun, and I suspect Jay's social media sites will be following this adventure as it happens. Yeah,
Real Respect is on their Facebook. Are going to do a live feed while they're out there if we've got service in that, and I'm sure on the Jay's side we'll simulcast that at the same time. So, like I say, whole thing is kind of grown from just getting a fishing trip from my daughter to sharing it with our customers and the folks that follow us. So I think it's pretty cool.
When's that coming up, Jeff?
It is near the end of July.
Okay. All right. So we got a lot of time to get ready for it.
Yeah, about July 28th or so, I think we're going to be on the water. So you just have to keep an eye out and watch Facebook on both Jay's and Real Respect and Charters, and we'll be broadcasting and letting everybody know the more detail.
All right, Jeff, we'll keep an eye on that. Sounds like a good trip. Jeff Poet of Jay's Sporting Goods. Jay'sSportingGoods.com is the website. 2 stores, one in Clare and one in Gaylord. Check him out, the website, Jay'sSportingGoods.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the first hour with Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC 1450 AM 99.7 FM. And you can hear us in Marquette, north of the bridge on WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Boning Archery, Michigan-based Boning, a leader in the archery industry for more than 3/4 of a century. I was thinking about this the other day. I was sitting out there in the turkey blind, and I've got this new high-tech crossbow with these lighted arrows. State of the art, right? High-tech as you can get. And I'm thinking, look at that. I have a Boning quiver on that crossbow. From traditional archery to crossbows, from the target range to the field, Boning has you covered, and they have for 75 years now. I just think that's so impressive that a company, they were around when Fred Bear was around, and yet they're still here today. They're still coming up with new products, new manufacturing processes. It's a very, very impressive company, but they're a very quiet company. Check them out online at boning.com. That's BOHNING.com. I will bet that you have some Boning products on your rig, and if you don't, I would encourage you to check them out, boning.com. Also, check out this website, woods-n-waternews.com. That's the website of Michigan's, in my opinion, premier outdoor publication, and they have been for many years. Tom Campbell, one of the reasons for that, with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Tom, welcome back. We've been so busy, we haven't had a chance to talk for a while. How have you been?
You're right, Mike. Just fine, just fantastic. Doing the same, chasing turkeys around the Thumb area, doing the same old, I'm here, they're over there, I sneak over there, they're back over here. I've got it down.
Oh my gosh. And that's one of the things I love/hate about turkey hunting. It becomes such a mental game.
It does. It really does. Yeah, you're exactly right. And we've talked before about it. There's so many ways you can hunt them, too. You can do a variety of methods, everything from, if you're really good, you can stalk, you can call, you can set up in a blind, you can ambush. So you got all those options. You got all, like you talked about, all different weapon options. You can go archery, you can go crossbow, which I'm chasing them with a crossbow as well as you, Mike, and of course you got the shotguns and even black powder. So yeah, it's just a joy. It's such a thrill when you throw that call out there and you get a gobble back and you go, oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Right then, it's like, okay, I'm hooked. I'm a turkey hunter from now on. Yeah, that's
exactly
it.
Right.
What about advice for turkey hunters? Do we find that in the magazine these days?
Oh, absolutely. You sure will. We've got a great piece, which I've been kind of using a little bit, about going out on midday by Darren Potter has written a midday magic. And instead of the early morning, they get out there at midday when the toms the hens go about feeding, the toms kind of wander away from those hens for a little bit. You might get lucky and draw one away from where they were. So, great tips in there on our spring turkey hunting for sure throughout the whole May issue. And the cover is dynamite. If you haven't seen a turkey head close up, you get a close up on that cover.
Yeah,
and I have to say they're rather ugly.
They're so ugly they're pretty.
Exactly right. They are so. Yes.
I think I'm going to take a little of your advice. I'm a little sleep deprived right now because I'm getting up. I feel like in the middle of the night and getting out there well before daylight. I should get a few extra hours sleep and just go out there and sit over a dusting bowl.
There you go. That's exactly right. That's the idea. You got it, Mike.
Hey, it's only May. Is it too early to start thinking about that first weekend after Labor Day?
Absolutely not. We are right in the heart of it. We're in conversations with all kinds of vendors trying to make the 2023 outdoor weekend at the Eastern Michigan Fairgrounds one of the best ever. And we're working hard at it, trying to do some new things, try to get some new exciting things to come along to entice people to come and entertain, educate them, and inform them. So that's going to be the September 8th, 9th, and 10th at the Eastern Michigan Fairgrounds in Emily City. And we're excited about it for sure.
It'll be another great show, but you've got, 1, 2, 3, like 4 magazines to get out between now and then, so that it never ends for you guys, does it?
No, absolutely no. It's hard too to be in your June and even looking at July copy stories for July when there's a little bit of snow still falling every now and then, and where you got 33-degree wind chill factors. So
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
You got to be focused. That's for sure, Mike. You got to remember where you're at.
Well, what I think, listen, I suspect you have the authority to do this. What I think should happen here, Tom Campbell, is you need to go out here in the next couple of days, shoot a big long beard, get a nice picture of it, and you should put that picture on the cover of Woods-n-Waternews.
There you go. That I think that sounds like a great plan, but I'm not sure my picture belongs on the cover. But I would love to do that. And you're talking about that, Mike, we have had some fantastic results. It seems like we were just talking about big bucks, and now all of a sudden these turkeys people are harvesting are gigantic. I mean, we've got a couple 30-pounders in where they've taken pictures of the scale, and we're talking 12-inch, 13-inch beards. It's incredible.
Well, go get one, Tom. I want to see a picture of you with that. I'll send people to the website, woods-n-waternews.com. Thank you to Tom Campbell and to Jeff Pote of Jay's Sporting Goods. That'll wrap up this first hour of the show. When we come back in hour number 2, the Yakmaster, Dave Mull, and then Nick Green of MUCC here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. I know you're sick of hearing this, but I always feel obligated to make the point that this is first and foremost a radio show. And I make that point because I think that makes it unique. A 3-hour weekly outdoor-oriented statewide radio show is just not something you see a lot of these days. And I would encourage you, if you can, to listen to the show on your local radio station. But if you can't, if your local affiliate doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live, God forbid, in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, it is nice to know that there is a podcast version of the show that is available for you to consume, however you would consume your podcast. And podcasting is huge these days. You can hear the podcast version of the radio show on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear it on my Facebook page. You can hear it, everywhere. Everywhere you can hear a podcast, I think you can hear the podcast version of Outdoor Magazine Radio. Amazon, Audible, Twitter, Apple Music, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, yada, 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 yada. I even put it on YouTube. It's not a video version of the podcast. It's an audio version, but people, listen to it there as well. I do like podcasting, though. I think it's a very cool medium these days that is evolved, that is accessible to anybody. You could literally take your phone, record a podcast, and upload it from your phone. You don't need a lot of fancy gear, fancy equipment, expensive. It's nothing. So if you have an idea, a concept, a topic that you want to share with people, I would encourage you to do that. I have some podcasts in addition to the podcast version of the radio show. I do a monthly podcast for Angler Quest Boats, Polar Craft Boats, Primal Outdoors, and Offshore Tackle. And when we are done here in the studio recording this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, we will record this month's Offshore Tackle podcast. Speaking of podcasting, I think an interesting podcast would be one on kayak fishing, yak fishing. And I think the guy to do that would be the Yakmaster himself, Dave Mull, who is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Dave, welcome back. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
I am doing just great. I love the fact that you have become known as the Yakmaster. I've told you this before. I think, there have been a lot of people promoting kayak fishing across the state, but it's grown so big. And certainly in the early days, I think you were one of the main proponents, the main promoters of it, and congrats to you for that.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. I don't want to step on anybody's toes because there were people who were involved in it for a couple of years at least before I got into it. But, thanks. I have tried to promote tournaments and just kayak fishing in general, and, it's a great sport.
Why is it a great sport?
Well, it's not that expensive to get into. It gets you on the water in a kind of an intimate way with your surroundings, and it's a great way to catch fish.
Well, you hear people talk about a stealthy presentation. There is no more stealth mode than coming in with a kayak.
That's probably true, and that is a big part of why I think people are so successful in kayaks. I honestly feel like I've caught more fish out of my kayak than I ever did when I fished out of a boat. And I haven't fished out of a boat probably for 4 years with a few exceptions.
That is quite a statement, though, Dave, because, you were involved, you were with StarCraft years ago, you were with Great Lakes, Great Lakes Angler Magazine?
Great Lakes Angler, yep.
You've spent a lot of years fishing big boats on big water, so to say you've caught more fish out of a kayak now, that is indeed quite a statement.
Well, yeah, I probably should clarify that. I haven't caught more salmon out of a kayak than I did out of the big boats. And I haven't caught more walleyes out of the kayak, but I really do think I've caught more bass out of a kayak than I ever did when I targeted in a boat. I'm just kind of coming to that realization. I think two things are involved in that. One, is the stealth factor, but two, you have to, really cover water well, thoroughly. Whereas in a bass boat, you can put the trolling motor on high and wing away and, cover a lot of water. In kayak fishing, you tend to cover each piece of structure really thoroughly, and I think you catch more fish by doing that.
Well, that is interesting because there is a school of thought, especially when you're trolling. You troll to find active fish. You leave the neutral or negative fish alone and you just move on to some active fish. When you don't have that mobility, you are working those fish over a lot more, aren't you?
I think so. I'm no expert on this. This is just one of the stupid fish theories, and I've got a lot of those. But I think a fish's or a bass's strike zone is smaller than a lot of people give it credit for, and I think sometimes you have to really plunk something just right within that strike zone for them to bite it. Whereas if you're got your trolling motor on high and you're winging a crankbait or a spinnerbait, you might not get it within that strike zone. But if you're kayak fishing and you're, I like to use finesse, and a lot of the more successful guys that I've competed against do a lot of finesse fishing. I think you just have to get it where the bass can see it and realize it's there. And I think you can do that better in a kayak. Or you tend to have to do it in a kayak.
Sure, yeah. Well, and you talk about the intimacy. I still haven't fished out of a kayak, but I imagine
that's your loss.
It is. I know it is. I know it is because you've invited me a dozen times. I know it's my loss. But I imagine there's a big difference between sitting there at water level in your kayak and me in the Angler Quest. I'm several feet above the water. It's a different perspective.
Yeah, it's a whole different scene. I mean, when you're, and I love your Angler Quest, by the way. I would, I'll go fishing with you anytime. But when you're in a kayak, you are kind of more at one with the water. I know that sounds a little airy-fairy, but it's, when you catch a fish, it's right there by you when you're netting it, and you tend to see more when you're that close to the water. Not only fish, but because of the quiet of the kayak, you see a lot more wildlife. I think you do, and you get closer to things that a boat might spook. When you're going down a river, you go right past deer sometimes, or ospreys, or whatever. You just see more stuff that I don't think you always see when you're buzzing along in a jet boat in a river, or just in a regular boat on a lake.
Sure. Are kayaks limited to rivers and inland lakes, or can you be adventurous and take them out on more?
Oh, a lot of guys. I mean, and I have too. I tend to be more conservative these days, but we have some really big kayak tournaments, and a lot of guys fish for fun out on Lake St. Clair, which is basically a great lake. A lot of guys are tuning into the Grand Traverse Bay smallmouth out of kayaks. And we have tournaments there. Basically places that you might not think a kayak would be good enough, and you do have to be careful when you're on those big bodies of water. You got to watch where the wind's going to be coming from before you launch, so that you're launching in a lee, or you just have to take into account what the wind's going to do, so that you don't get stuck in 6-footers out in the middle of nowhere in a kayak. That's no fun at all. I
would imagine not, but I find it interesting that these days when I see, I never see canoes on vehicles anymore. It's just kayaks. What's the comparison between a kayak and a canoe?
I think it's a matter of comfort. When I learned to canoe, I did it at Boy Scout camp, and we were told to kneel. Kneeling on aluminum is not comfortable. I think obviously today's canoes are more comfortable, but even so, you're basically sitting on a bench seat, whereas kayaks, if you get one that has a chair, it can be as comfortable as sitting in a lounge chair watching TV while you're fishing. I just find it a lot more comfortable. Canoes are bigger and bulkier, and if you want to go by yourself, you're more at the mercy of wind than you are in a kayak. Although you're certainly at the mercy of the wind in a kayak too. But it's just easier to fish out of a kayak, I think, than it is to fish out of a canoe. Although I know guys who still love their canoes and catch lots of fish out of them.
Well, hang tight, Dave. We got a lot more I want to talk with you about. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. We're talking with Dave Mull, the Yakmaster. He's also like a social media icon or a guru. If you go to Instagram, you can find him as Dave Mull 6 on Instagram. Dave Mull 6. I am so jealous of the number of his followers. He's doing something right over on Instagram, so you can find him there, Dave Mull 6. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll talk more with Dave. The Yakmaster, about kayaking and maybe how to buy the right one, how to use it, and why it's just growing like crazy right here in the great state of Michigan and beyond, I suspect, as well. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold. WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra, 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on News Talk 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Rapid River Knives. You hear the sound right here? That's the sound of my Rapid River knife opening. I have a Rapid River knife in my pocket right now, as I always do. You know that. I think a knife is one of the most valuable tools that a person can carry. I find myself reaching for my knife several times each day. Sometimes for something nothing, as mundane as just opening a package, but it's nice to have a knife right there, right? And Rapid River knives are handmade by craftsmen in the UP. If you get a chance, check out their showroom on 2 just east of Rapid River. If you can't make it up, the showroom is absolutely beautiful. If you can't make it up there, go to the website rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us, and you'll get a feel for what the company has to offer. A lifetime guarantee on their knives. You can get them engraved however you want them. They have folding knives, fillet knives, skinning knives, gutting knives, hatchets, axes, kitchen knives. If it's got a blade, probably the folks at Rapid River are making it or can make it. Again, the website, rapidriverknifeworks.us. That's rapidriverknifeworks.us. We're talking now here on the Outdoor Magazine show about kayaking, not recreational kayaking so much as kayak fishing, with the Yakmaster himself, Dave Mull. You can follow Dave on Instagram as Dave Mull 6 on Instagram. Dave, you were talking before the break about if you get a yak with a seat in it. How are these things set up? Don't they all have seats in them?
Well, yeah, they do. But there are some that have like a soft back that basically are supported by straps. But the best ones have seats with an aluminum frame, and they're really well made. They're expensive to replace. If you dump your kayak and you lose a seat, it can be expensive to replace it. So it's probably a big part of the cost of the better kayaks. But I'm not talking about real expensive kayaks, but I think kayaks with seats start around $800 with actual chairs. And there are some guys you can find YouTube videos of how to take a stadium seat and install it in a much less expensive kayak that you could get at Walmart or someplace like that. So it's more comfortable to fish out of too.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. You see kayaks for sale everywhere. I'm surprised Family Dollar doesn't have the things out front these days. But
yeah.
What are you looking for, and what do you need?
Well, if you're going to fish out of it, and you think you might take it kind of seriously. And actually, anybody who gets a kayak really needs to try it before they buy it. It's different strokes for different folks. What's comfortable for me might not be comfortable for someone else, and for a variety of reasons. And you just need to figure out if you want to paddle. The less expensive kayaks are generally paddle kayaks. Then you get into pedal drive kayaks, which are more expensive and I think better for fishing in most cases, because you can pedal while you're going someplace and change your lure while you're moving, and just basically steer while you're using your legs to propel you. And you can add motors to basically almost any kayak these days. There's an electric motor you can get to move along. If you might have some physical limitations or something, or a motor is the ultimate way to move from one spot to another and do other things in the boat, like sort through your tackle or retie lures or whatever. I've tried motor kayaks. I prefer pedal drives myself, just because it's just more my style, I think. And it's really about my only form of exercise anymore, so I don't want to remove that. So,
is it a workout? Is it a workout to move one of these things along?
It's a real mild workout. I don't think it's difficult. I mean, obviously you can make it as hard as you want to by pedaling as fast as you can for sustained periods. I don't generally do that. But yeah, I feel like it does something to keep me in shape, going out kayak fishing and pedaling around a lake, for sure. And I recently acquired a paddle kayak just to use in rivers, because I want to do more river fishing this year.
You may be a step ahead of me. What's a paddle? Oh, a paddle. You mean the paddle like a canoe?
Yeah, paddle powered.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
One without any drive other than arm power.
So the propulsion unit on the bottom of this thing, when you mention paddle, I'm thinking of a paddle wheel on a Mississippi River paddle boat. Is that what's on the a smaller version on the bottom of these kayaks?
No, the most of them these days have a propeller system that is powered by basically like you're pedaling a bike. Hobie's came out with the very first pedal drive kayaks with their Mirage drive system, and those actually emulate the way a penguin flies through the water. They move back and forth and propel you forward, and instead of pedaling in a circular motion, you're basically pumping back and forth on the pedals to propel. And I've had Hobies, and they're a wonderful kayak. And there's some advantages to the Mirage drive in that you can get into shallower water than you can with a fixed propeller system and still move. My current kayak is an Old Town Predator PDL that I've had for about 4 years, and it's a pedal drive, and its main limitation is going through thicker weeds and getting into shallow water. You basically have to pick up the drive, just tilt it up into the kayak and either push pole or paddle when you're in real shallow water, or it gets real weedy.
Old Town, that's a name I recognize. They've been around forever as a canoe company.
Right. And they make a number of really nice kayaks. Not that I'm sponsored by them or anything, but you wouldn't turn it down. But you wouldn't turn it down if it was offered. No, I wouldn't turn it down. No, if Old Town wants to pay me to fish out of an Old Town, I'll be happy to do that.
We're just putting that out to the universe.
Anyone else?
Can you troll if you've got one that you paddle, or can you actually troll behind one of these things?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are rod holder systems built specifically for kayaks, and when you're paddling, there are guys that will put their rods even in front of them just far enough so that they can still paddle. That way they can watch their rods while they're paddling. A paddle kayak obviously is a little bit easier to troll with, I think, because you can put your rods closer to you and just have to keep them out of the way of your legs as you pedal. And you can see them, and they're in front of you instead of behind you, where you have to reach around and pull them out of a rod holder. Although there are guys that troll that way too, and don't have any problems doing that.
So what are most people chasing in a kayak? Is it primarily bass fishermen?
I think so. That's my gut feeling, but I might have kind of an obscure vision of kayak fishing because kayak bass fishing is about all I do. I mean, I have taken my kayak out and at night with lights and fish for trout and crappies and stuff like that. But I mainly like bass fishing. I have limited time to go fishing, and I just like the competition and the group of folks that I encounter in the kayak bass tournaments around the state and nationally too. I haven't done any national tournaments for a while and don't really plan to this year. But you can pretty much go anywhere and meet a bunch of really good folks in the kayak world that are pursuing bass. But I mean, in answer to your question, there's a lot of saltwater guys that kayak fish. There's a group of guys, mainly in Wisconsin, on Lake Michigan, mainly because prevailing west wind sucks cold water closer to shore and the salmon with it. And there's a lot of guys that target salmon out of kayak.
Whoa.
That's their big thing. And I haven't done it yet. I mean, I've trolled for cohos and caught a few in about this time of year, maybe earlier in the year. But I have not done the whole, big salmon thing out of a kayak, and I really need to do that. It looks like a riot. And then there's guys like at Muskegon Lake where you can jig up salmon when they run in the fall. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys do that out of kayaks too. And then there's guys that go down the Detroit River and fish for walleyes and stuff like that. But so I guess the answer, I'm going to change my answer, in that guys pursue basically anything they pursue out of a boat in a kayak.
All right. Well, I see them everywhere. I get from the outside, I can see the appeal. I like the price. So I remember in past conversations with you, there's a couple of different styles. Sit in, what's the version for models?
Sit in and sit on top are the two main ones. And most kayak anglers have a sit on top, although a kid that I've been kind of mentoring and taking to tournaments and stuff, he has a sit in, and he does really well out of his little sit in. He keeps things really simple. So any style will work, but as far as comfort and having ease of rigging electronics and putting rod holders on it and stuff like that, a sit on top is the way to go. I think it's a lot more comfortable than a sit inside. And I'm pretty sure that most kayak guys would agree that they're a lot more stable than most sit-insides.
Are they more stable than a canoe?
I would say yes. Your center of gravity is low, and a lot of the hull designs on these kayaks use kind of a, kind of a catamaran sort of style. Mm-hmm. Not really. There are actually catamaran kayaks with two sponsons, but like I have a bonafide kayak that is really stable, and it's got kind of a hull design that puts, I want to say, it's kind of like the old tri-hull boats, that you used to see a lot. In a kayak design, that provides a real stable platform.
Well, Dave, it's always fascinating to talk with you, Mr. Yakmaster yourself. Have a great summer. I'll look forward to following you on social media, especially that Instagram page, Dave Mull 6, and see all your adventures on the water and in the kayaks. And it's always good talking to you, buddy. Well, that's likewise, Mike. You have a great day, great week, great season. And a great life. Let's take it all the way to the end, eh? Dave Mull, always a pleasure. Check him out on Instagram, Dave Mull 6, the Yakmaster himself. We'll take a break. When we come back, Nick Green of MUCC right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on 33 stations across the great state of Michigan, including in Houghton Lake, the Twister, 92.1 WTWS. In Muskegon, WKBZ 1090 AM. And let's go north of the bridge to Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins, Michigan-based VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set and snap on and zip on an outer skin of a different camouflage pattern? Literally, you can do it in under a minute. So you can change the skin for the season you're in and save a lot of money as well. The website, versaskins.com, versaskins.com. VersaSkins now also offers large sizes, 2+ sizes. I think 4 or 5X even. So if you're looking for something like that, the folks at VersaSkins can take care of you. Again, the website, versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. I want to turn our attention now to our friends at MUCC. I say our friends. I think of them as friends. I think MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs, out of Lansing, is a friend of sportsmen and women in Michigan because I think they are proponents for the right thing. I think they are watchdogs. And I also find it interesting that at least the people I know at MUCC actually love to hunt and fish as well, including Nick Green, their Chief Information Officer, who joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Nick, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Mike. Always great to be here.
Oh, listen, it's a real pleasure, and I got to talk to you about something I saw online. Looks to me like you might be hooked on this sport called turkey hunting now.
I was fortunate enough to be able to take my first turkey this year. I had spent one other season chasing turkeys, but it all kind of combined thanks to a coworker's effort, and I got the full gamut of experiences, from birds coming down off the roost 100 yards away to, gobbling at 60 yards to running down a 2-track with my shotgun. It was a one-of-a-kind experience, and as someone who already has kind of an affinity for bird hunting, it pretty much ensured that I will be at least getting my one turkey in Michigan and going out of state, and hopefully someday MUCC will allow us to get 2 turkeys.
Well, so this is interesting. I mean, you are a bird hunter, an upland, woodcock, grouse. A bird is a bird, but, a turkey's a different critter.
It was different for me, not having a dog involved made it new, and, the bird acts different. It's one of those birds that doesn't want to fly, but when it flies, it does it meaningful. So it was just a whole new experience, and, going out and tracking for them was fun, so you can go out and find tracks. When we go grouse hunting or woodcock hunting, that's not really an aspect of the hunt we're looking towards. But turkey hunting, it was very much, we're trying to find sign and scat and tracks. And so it was kind of reminiscent of run and gun deer hunting, different time of year, different scenery. So I had a lot of fun. It's something, again, I look forward to doing in the years to come.
And the vocal interaction you get with turkeys, that's what has me hooked.
Yeah, I mean, the first bird of the morning on opening morning, we called down. It was about 100 yards up in the tree. It flew down to about a 125 probably from us, and we called it to the edge of water. We weren't quite sure. We didn't know it was there exactly where it was at, and it got to about 50 yards and hung up right over the thing of a hill, but it was just calm. You could hear, every leaf turn in the wind, and then all of a sudden he let loose right over that hill, and my heart came up in my throat, and Justin's nudging me like, your gun needs to be up, because if he comes over, you can't move. And, I don't think I've stood that still for 10 minutes ever in my life. And I just sat there with my gun ready, and he never came in. I was able to get a Jake later in the day, but we were able to experience that 2 or 3 times. We had another gentleman we took out. We got a turkey within 60 yards, and he kind of moved his hand, and it went, and it was gone. It was just unreal. It was something I'm going to look forward to.
Welcome to the club, my friend. It's an addiction. It's a good addiction, though. You say something that got my attention, though. You said, maybe we might be able to shoot 2 birds here in Michigan?
Yeah, so MUCC, that's a resolution that we have, saying that, if our quotas allow and our populations allow, we should be able to buy 2 spring turkey tags. With that, we've started a pretty broad conversation with the National Wild Turkey Federation and the department in an effort to gather some more data. So I think obviously first and foremost, we want to make sure we know what the populations are, make sure we won't have a negative biological implication. But if things look as though we think they might in the next couple of years, that is something we will be pushing toward.
Well, there's a lot of hunters who would like to see that.
There is. It seems to be it's not near you. I don't want to say it's unanimous, nor even near unanimous, but it is. I would say it's majority supported. Especially when you have areas like Newaygo where I was able to get my tag. I think there's still 3,000 tags available over the counter, or there even was for that first season. So, again, if we're setting these quotas, there's a reason for that the department has determined these numbers are what we're able to sustain. We should be able to sell those tags to folks who want to utilize them.
All right, sounds good. Hey, listen, Nick, can you stick around for the Ask Avery segment? I got some more things I'd like to talk with you about.
I love to, Mike. Thanks.
All right. Nick Green of MUCC, the website MUCC.org. That's MUCC.org. Nick is their Chief Information Officer, and they're one of their hardcore turkey hunters now. And he was able to bag a bird opening morning. Not all of us were that fortunate. I'll leave it at that for now. We'll take a break. More when we come back right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ. That's 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by my friends from Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. And a reminder, the way the Ask Avery segment works is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. Maybe you have a question you'd like me to answer. Maybe it's something you would like me to forward along to the folks in the DNR or maybe MUCC. The best way to get these questions to me, by the way, is to send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Although I will tell you, the Ask Avery segment this time around is a result of a post I put on Facebook. I shared a post from MUCC about the latest developments at the proposed Camp Grayling expansion. And, I said, hey, this is good news. And I had some people say, well, why is this good news? The military needs this room to train. And what are you, Avery? Are you are you anti-military? Well, of course not. But I thought, you know what? As long as we've got Nick Green of MUCC on the phone line anyway, let's keep him around and have him be the subject of our Ask Avery segment. And I will ask you, Nick Green, what is the latest development here, and is this indeed good news?
Yeah, so on April 21st, the Department of Natural Resources signed a memorandum of understanding with the National Guard. And that was basically the kind of counter to the original 162,000 acre ask the National Guard had proposed. In this MOU, which is not uncommon, the department enters into MOUs with lots of agencies, nonprofits. In fact, MUCC has an MOU with them regarding Around the Ground program. This is something they do quite frequently. So in that MOU, it kind of lays out, what this relationship and partnership will look like. It does point to two main goals. And those goals of the partnership are that it will establish all the rules by which the Guard has to kind of abide by, and that resource protection will be first and foremost above all else. So from MUCC's perspective, the second is obviously very important to us. And while we are glad the department denied the 162,000 acres, that was a huge grassroots win for us. We had a lot of folks engage, your readers as well. We still are paying attention to this MOU and what the Guard might be able to do. There are some folks who are on the opposite end of the spectrum of how you kind of led this segment, and they see this as actually a loss. And they see 52,000 acres is still too much. And while that's understandable and while there is justification for that, there are a litany of things that the Guard has to abide by and do in order to secure the land use permits spelled out in that MOU. So at the end of the day, folks should remember that while they can train on up to 52,000 acres, each permit will be reviewed and only be approved for the amount of acreage needed. So they're likely not going to be using thousands and thousands of acres at a time. From MUCC's perspective, one of the other main reasons we opposed this was access. And in this MOU, all lands will remain open all of the time, no question, period. That was a major victory for us because we've seen past Guard instances where lands have been closed, especially, and that becomes troublesome during hunting season. So this was, to us, was again a great compromise that addressed concerns we had. So I think, there's a lot to dive in here with the MOU. We are going to stay tuned into the issue. We are going to make sure that the words on paper match what is being done in the field. In order for the Guard to do any of this, again, in the first place, they have to go through the Natural Environmental Protection Act. So they have to file either an EIA or an EIS with them before they can apply to the DNR. So the moral of the story is there are a lot of safeguards here that we feel are adequately protecting our resources right now. We need to just make sure that they're followed through in the coming years.
Is this in any way a statement of lack of support for our military? I've heard that.
No, not at all. From day one, MUCC has said, and in fact, our original resolution points to the fact that we only oppose this if there is not a national emergency or reason that the military needs it. Had the National Guard from the beginning, were they able to explain in a way that made sense why they needed 160,000 out, 2,000 acres, I think the conversations would have went a lot differently. But that just was never really enunciated without a clear reason for that. Our resolution was very, very specific on opposition unless there is a national emergency.
Gotcha, Nick. I appreciate that. Thanks for bringing us up to speed. I enjoyed your turkey hunting story as well. The website for MUCC is mucc.org, mucc.org. Why don't you think about joining that organization? Strength in numbers, and MUCC will use all the numbers they can get, mucc.org. Also, a big thanks to our friends at Security Credit Union for making the Ask Avery segment possible. This time around, though, it was an Ask Nick segment. But that's all right. I like that. SecurityCU.org is their website. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back at hour number 3, a reminder, this is the time to apply for your Michigan bear and elk tags. We're talking about Michigan bears. Let's talk to Richard P. Smith. Him and wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar in hour 3.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations. And glad to be here with you, and certainly glad to have you along with us. I always say there's a lot of different things you could be doing right now, watching or listening to, or any type of media you could be consuming in some way. And the fact that you're hearing my voice, it does mean a lot. It really does. And I probably don't say that enough. So what's going on in the Michigan outdoors right now? Well, there's some good fishing going on. Turkey season's going on. The weather, that's got to be the main thing we've been talking about for the last week, right? Now, the forecast for next week does look a little better, and it feels like it's starting to turn. But, man, it's been just rotten, just nasty. And I live in the central part of the Lower Peninsula. I know in the Yup it's been just crazy. I talked to my buddy Johnny Bowler. He sent me a picture the other night. In the middle of the night, he's out on a snow plow. He's plowing the county roads in that first week of May. That's why he says I don't get too excited about spring until we get well into the month of May. So what else? See, May here in Michigan also means it's the time to apply for your Michigan bear tag. It's the time to apply for your Michigan elk tag. I have never had a Michigan elk tag. I know I never will, but I'll keep applying. Richard P. Smith has gotten an elk. If I remember right, he got a big bull elk. And he certainly is an avid bear hunter. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk about that and some other things as well. Richard, welcome. How are you?
I'm great, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Before we talk about that, let's talk about this late winter weather. And I'm wondering, you've always told me that, look, it's not the severity of midwinter that affects our UP whitetail herd as much as the weather into the springtime. So what are you seeing, Richard? What's your sense?
Well, fortunately, our deer in the UP had a major break before this snowstorm we got this past Monday and Tuesday. We really got socked with almost 2 feet of snow in parts of Marquette County on Monday and Tuesday. However, we had some really nice weather in April in the 70s and 80s that melted the majority of the snow in the UP for a couple weeks prior to this snowstorm. So most of our deer had a chance to move out of winter yards toward their summer range and eat some better quality food than they had during the winter. That 2-week break before this heavy snow should help most of the deer survive, even with this new snowstorm.
Help us downstaters understand this whole yarding process and what it is and why the deer use them.
Well, it's a traditional movement pattern of UP deer. They tend to move south from north toward areas where there's less snow. Some deer in Marquette County here move all the way down to Dickinson County, in North Menominee County, where there's normally less snow and a better survival situation for the winter. And there are a lot of large cedar swamps and evergreen swamps that make up deer yards in that part of the UP. And once the snow melts in the spring, they move back north toward their summer range.
And are these migration, do they tend to use like the same route year after year? Is this something the fawns learn from the does? They take them down this and they pass it along to future generations, if I can put it in that context?
Yeah, that's how it works. They use the same trails. There's traditional migration trails throughout the UP that the deer use both when they head south and when they head back north. And the fawns learn these routes from their mothers.
If these trails have been used for years and years, these like through a cedar swamp, this thing must look like a highway going through there. This has seen a lot of deer over the years. Yes,
and you can see them even during the summer. The trails are so heavily used.
So, UP deer in general, I hear from a lot of people, at least I see this online, they say, we don't have the deer that we used to. The numbers are way down, and they blame, a lot of people blame wolves or whatever. But what is the truth, Richard? What is the state of the UP deer herd? Has it been decimated like the horror stories I hear?
Well, in parts of the northern UP, we do have low deer densities. And winter is one of the most important factors. But trying to carry too many deer through severe winters that damages the winter habitat is another important factor that has resulted in low deer numbers. Certainly wolves kill deer, We all know that. But the severe winters and poor wintering habitat are more important factors.
And the thing I think it's important to keep in mind, again, for us downstaters, down here, when I think of deer habitat, it's something that can be changed pretty easily, if nothing more than, crops that vary every year. Your habitat, it takes a long time to regenerate, say, a cedar swamp or a deer yard. This is not a short-term deal.
Exactly. Very long-term.
So, but the good news is, even with this late snowstorm, the earlier break, it's going to help the critters out.
Yes, exactly. And I think in Marquette County here, North Marquette County, most of our deer survived winter. We got a lot of snow, but we had some warm spells in between that helped them make it through.
Richard, do you have, I know there's a turkey season there. Do many people hunt turkeys in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, they do. Turkey hunting in the UP is much better now than it was originally. Now you can apply for a UP turkey tag and hunt anywhere in the region. It used to be broken down into management units, smaller management units. You had to go to a specific area. And we do have turkeys widely distributed in the UP now compared to years ago when they were first established. I see turkeys all the time in Keweenaw County even.
Wow. I would think, though, birds up there must survive on feeding programs because that's a little bit out of their natural range, isn't it?
Yes. Throughout the UP, most of the turkeys we have do survive based on supplemental feeding from homeowners and Sportsman's Club during the winter.
Well, and if I remember right, too, I think you have the Michigan Grand Slam. Didn't you shot a book turkey, a book, whitetail, a book bear, a book elk, right? I mean, you've done it all.
Sure. And I've taken a number of book deer and book bear, actually.
Well, speaking of bear hunting, and this is one of my favorite topics. I'm late to this whole party, compared to your experience, but I love it. I love everything about it. May is the time to apply for your Michigan bear tag.
Correct.
Where will you be applying? What season? Help, I think I'm starting to get a handle on this, but give us some advice.
Well, I've always applied for the third hunt. Most UP bear management units have three options to apply for. The first hunt starts, the first 5 days is bait only or other hunting methods other than hounds. The second hunt, 5 days later, hounds become legal. And from that point on, both bait and hounds are legal until October 26th. There is more permits available for that third hunt than the second or the first, and there's less competition for those greater number of permits in that third hunt. That's why I always apply for that third hunt. And normally I get a permit every year applying for the Baraga Bear Management Unit.
So do you have to be then in a pretty remote area to have a good third hunt? Because I'm thinking if you're in an area that's been hit pretty hard by that third season, these bears are getting smart.
Yeah, it is beneficial, certainly, to have areas with little to no hunting pressure to increase your chances of success during that third hunt. But most years during that third season, I've had opportunities to kill bears. I've not always filled tags. I've passed up legal bears. But the odds are lowest for success during that third hunt. But if you know what you're doing, the odds aren't that bad.
I feel like bear hunting is becoming more popular in Michigan, or maybe it's just my own personal bias because I love it so much. What do you see, Richard?
Well, there's certainly many thousands of people applying for permits. I think there is increased interest in bear hunting in Michigan, and that's a good thing. We've certainly got plenty of bears. In fact, I firmly believe we're under-harvesting our bear population. We could have more permits issued, and in fact, there was a reduction in the number of permits for the Newberry, Berglund, and Gwinn units starting this year. The Newberry unit was cut back by 165 permits. There's 130 fewer permits for the Berglund unit and 65 fewer for Gwyn. And that's going to reduce the odds of being drawn.
7,000 bear tags statewide. That's not a lot of tags for a lot of people wanting. Hang tight, Richard. We got to take a break. We're talking with Richard P. Smith.
Sure.
His website is richardpsmith.com. That's richardpsmith.com. You know Richard, and you've told me he's one of your favorite guests here. Hunting expert, whitetail expert, bear expert, you name it, richardpsmith.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Michigan-based Whack-'em and Plack-'em, a very cool and unique way to show off your mounts, your trophies. You can use them for shoulder mounts, European mounts, even fish. For details, check out the website, nontypicalinnovations.com. That's nontypicalinnovations.com. You'll see what I mean. A very cool way to show off your, you could say trophies, but I don't really like that word, right? What you're trying to do is preserve the memory of your outdoor experience. You want to be able to look at that and go, oh, yeah, I remember that hunt, or I remember that trip. Again, Whack-'em and Plack-'em, the website, nontypicalinnovations.com. Go to nontypicalinnovations.com and check them out. A great way to remember and preserve your hunting experiences, not necessarily your trophies. A trophy is, some people say a trophy has to be to make it in the record book. I say a trophy is whatever you want it to be, whatever that experience is. Richard P. Smith has many animals in the trophy books. He's a hardcore hunter. He's a very knowledgeable outdoorsman. Richard, during the break there, I heard the spot for Brenton USA hunting rifles, and it got me thinking, are you primarily a gun hunter, or do you think of yourself as a gun hunter or a bow hunter?
Both.
Both?
I hunt most of the archery deer season. I've taken a number of bear with bow and arrow, and so I hunt with both as much as I can.
Whatever tool is allowed by the state and gets you out there. Why not, eh?
Exactly.
And why are crossbows not allowed in the UP in the late season?
Due to ignorance in politics.
I knew I could rely on you for an honest answer. Politics.
There's no reason that they shouldn't be legal in the UP during all seasons, just like they are in the rest of the state.
Politics shouldn't play a role, should it, Richard?
I missed that, Mike.
Politics should not play a role.
It should not, but unfortunately it does.
Is politics playing a role in the number of, in the discussion over the number of bears in Michigan and the bear tags, or is that strictly a biological conversation, do you think?
Well, no, it's not strictly biological. If it were strictly biological, we'd be issuing more licenses. And the department's bear population estimates currently are always 2 years behind the bear population. The latest bear estimate the department has is for September 1st, 2020, I believe is the most recent numbers. And the population, yearlings have been added to the population during 2022 and 2021. Since then.
I just got an email from a buddy of mine, and he says, "Hey, Mike, I'm because he heard me talking about, time to apply for a Michigan bear tag." He said it's something he's never done before. He's fascinated by it, and he wants to apply, but he's never done it, and he's asking me for advice. And I'm going to pass some advice along to him, but I thought, man, as long as we've got you on the show, you're the best person in the state to give a newbie bear hunter advice. I mean, where do you apply? Do you have to have an outfitter lined up? How does this all work, Richard?
Well, if you want to hunt over bait and you want to increase your chances of seeing bears. That first hunt that the first 5 days is bait only, that is one of the best options. However, there's fewer number of permits for that hunt, and there's a lot of competition for those limited number of permits. And it's important to understand there's good bear numbers throughout the UP. So any of the major bear management units in the UP are worth applying for, whether you have access to a camp or friends to hunt with, things like that. Drummond Island is not worth considering. There's only a few permits every year for Drummond. That's a small management unit. If the second hunt probably offers the bait hunter a better chance of drawing a permit because there's slightly more permits for that hunt than the first. And if you find an area where there isn't much hound hunting pressure, your chances of success are pretty good.
Yeah, and in beginning...
And as I mentioned, the third hunt, you've got the best chance of drawing, but a lower chance of success.
Okay, so here's the trade-off then, right? So
yeah.
The earlier seasons, the success is higher, but it's harder to get a tag. And the late season...
You have to wait the longest time, 5 years minimum.
Well, minimum, I mean, yeah, you look at some of these, it could take you 9, 10, 11 years to get a tag down in Red Oak or something like that.
Right. And in Newberry even, the Newberry unit, I think it takes 8 years now to get a first hunt for that unit.
So you've got to really want a bear hunt to wait that long. I mean, like you say, there are options. You can apply for the third season. I don't, I like people to stay in state to hunt, but, you can always go up to Canada. In the meantime, you can go to Canada, buy a tag over the counter. You can bear hunt every year while you're waiting for your Michigan tag.
Exactly. And Canada isn't that far.
No, it's not that far. Is it different? Is a Canadian bear hunting experience different than a Michigan bear hunting experience?
It can be. There's far more animals in Ontario, for example. In most of the Canadian provinces, there's far more bears than in Michigan. And I've always had excellent success hunting in Saskatchewan, and I took a bear in Ontario as well.
You've taken some big Saskatchewan bears.
I didn't hear that.
You've taken some big bears in Saskatchewan.
Yes. In fact, my biggest bear is the number 2 for North America in muzzleloading records. The official score was 21 and 14/16.
21, almost 22. How many pounds would a bear that size weigh?
Well, he weighed 450 in the spring. He would have been 6-ish, around 600 or more in the fall.
And how are spring bear hunts? For example, I'm going to White River, Ontario in the spring. I haven't been up there in a while. How is a springtime hunt different than a fall hunt?
Well, the black bear breeding season starts in late May and goes into June. That spring hunt encompasses the breeding season, which increases the movement of males and increases your chance of getting an adult male during a spring hunt.
And the one thing we haven't talked about yet is elk. You did shoot a real nice elk. How many years did you apply for a Michigan elk tag before you got one?
I think it took about 10 years.
That's really not bad, is it?
No. I was surprised when I got it, but it makes it worthwhile to apply. You never know.
Well, that's just it. That's what I say. I apply every year. I know I'm not going to get one, but if I don't apply, I really know I'm not going to get one.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who apply. When I used to MC or I used to host their hunter orientation meetings, every year I'd have people hold up their hand. Okay, how many years have you applied? Yada, yada. And Richard, every year there was somebody or maybe more than one person who got a tag applying first time, and often they got a bull tag the first time they applied. It's crazy.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is amazing. It is amazing. So what else is on your mind, Richard? We've kind of been all over the place, but I want to know what you're thinking right now.
Well, I've got a new book out that was just printed. It's a different book than others I've written. The title of it is Nickel and Dime Your Way to Extra Dollars While Saving the Planet. It's kind of an environmental theme dealing with Michigan's container deposit law. and those in other states as well. And while researching this book, I was amazed that only 10 states in the United States currently have container deposit laws. And I'd like to see that changed to increase the number of states. I think it would do tremendous benefits for the environment and climate change. I know it's worked extremely well in Michigan.
Now, this is kind of a departure. I didn't know you were working on something like this, and it kind of takes me by surprise.
Well, yeah, I was kind of keeping it quiet.
Well, you did a good job.
Yeah.
So
it's now available and listed on the website for people who are interested in ordering it. It's a way of... There's a lot of people who don't want to claim the deposit on cans and bottles, and if you take advantage of that opportunity, you can get extra money for groceries and gas and other essentials, and that's important with today's economy.
I sometimes feel like, I mean, I don't want to stereotype groups, but I sometimes feel like you've got hunters and anglers and trappers on one end of the spectrum, and then you've got, you use the term, environmentalists on the other. Can those two groups, I mean, you're a hunter and an angler, hardcore, but obviously you're worried about the environment as well. Can they meet? Can we meet in the middle someplace?
Yeah, and I think most hunters and anglers and campers and outdoor enthusiasts of all types are all interested in the environment, and I think there is a lot in common between the outdoor hunter and fisherman and the environmentalists.
And is this the new book is on your website, richardpsmith.com?
Yeah.
Well, I will look forward to that, Richard, and I will look forward to our next conversation. I always enjoy our talks. You're a wealth of information, and I appreciate your insight every time we get together.
Is there time to get in one more topic or not?
Absolutely. If you can do it quick, absolutely.
The National Deer Association has proposed mandatory antler point restrictions for the entire Lower Peninsula for this fall. And I hope most hunters realize with chronic wasting disease in the state, that's a mistake. In Montcalm County, the prevalence rate of CWD has gone from 2% in 2019 to 13.5% in 2022 due to the experimental antler point restriction that was in effect from 2019 to 2021. Yearling bucks are important to be harvested in our disease areas, just like adult does and yearling does. If yearling bucks are protected through mandatory antler point restrictions anywhere in the state, it's going to increase the spread of chronic wasting disease as it has in Montcalm County.
Richard, you bring up an interesting point. Let's follow up on this in a future conversation because I think it's something worth talking about. That's Richard P. Smith. His website, richardpsmith.com. richardpsmith.com, a man who knows a lot about a lot of things, and one of my favorite guests right here at Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on the WSGW 2 stations, News Radio 790 WSGW and 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now, although for this 3 hours each week, I kind of take it over, at least there's one little corner of it, and I kind of call it the Outdoor Magazine studio. And I have something behind me. If you've seen my behind the mic segments on my social media outlets, you've seen the graphic, the logo I have behind me. So I've kind of staked out this, and so far people have let me get away with it. So I do appreciate it. I'm in here with Charlie Rood. Charlie, I'm sorry to report that because the weather is so bad that the crowds in the parking lot are, well, honestly, there's nobody out there today. And I know it's not because they don't worship you and respect you and your abilities. It's just the weather. I knew you wouldn't be comfortable with that word. I wasn't once I said it either. Anyway, Charlie, I appreciate your help on the show. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard as they have for me. And, you know, I've just got a small little city lot, but it's really quite nice now. And I can thank the folks at Reader for doing it. It's nice to sit out there in the patio in the evening and just enjoy the end of the day. And Reader can do the same for you, whether you have a small city lot like I do or whether you have acres of property. In fact, the bigger the project, the better, because the folks at Reader, their designers are unreal and their crews are top-notch. Not just for lawn maintenance and such, but for full-blown projects. Whether you've got some landscaping you've want done or more, the folks from Reader can really help you out. Go to their website and you'll see some examples of the different projects they've been involved in, and they're breathtaking. Honestly, it's like, why go up north when you got a place right at your own house that you can walk out the backyard and you just beautiful. The website is readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. I always enjoy my conversations with Richard Smith. He's an interesting guy, isn't he? He did take me by surprise, though, when he let the cat out of the bag about that most recent book he'd written about Michigan's deposit law. Usually Richard tells me what he's got going on this one I wasn't aware of. So go to his website, richardpsmith.com, richardpsmith.com, and you can learn more about that. All right, a few more thoughts here. Oh, I was hunting earlier in the week, turkey hunting. I am still turkey hunting, by the way, and as long as the weather is rotten like it has been, I am quite content. In fact, I just was talking with Mr. AnglerQuest himself, Brad Dupuis, via text during the break, talking about my AnglerQuest. And I said, Brad, as long as it's like this, I'm okay to sit in a turkey blind, but as soon as it turns nice, I'm going to be jonesing to get on that boat and get out on Saginaw Bay. He said, hey, I hear you. He said, we got you taken care of. I did just talk to, also here, while we were recording the show, a new friend of mine, a property owner of this latest land that I've been turkey hunting on. And he said, look, I think you need to come back out here. He says, we've got some things going on. So I'm cautiously optimistic that I can still get a longbeard here during this season. I've had a lot of very close encounters. I missed that bird opening morning. Haven't had a longbeard in front of me since then. I've had a lot of hens in front of me. I've been real good at calling in the hens, but of course, hen is nothing more than live bait. I love having hens in front of me. Recently, it's about a week ago now, as you're hearing this show, I called in 4 or 5 hens, and one of them had a bearded hen. Now, in Michigan, the way the law reads for the springtime season is a bearded bird is a legal target, whether that's a longbeard, a jake, or a hen. So if you get a hen with a beard, she is a legal target. I could have shot her, but even though it's legal, I chose not to. And nothing against it. If you shoot a bearded hen or a jake, God bless you. I mean, that's a legal target. It's completely up to you, and I congratulate you on your success. I chose not to because I know there are a bunch of bigger birds, strutters, longbeards around there. I just need to be out there at the right time in the right place and see if I can't make that happen. A reminder, too, we were talking throughout the show, May is the time here in Michigan to apply for a bear tag and an elk tag. Only 260 elk tags will be awarded. 7,000 bear tags will be awarded. Now, 7,000 it's a lot, but bear tags are not that easy to get. Elk tags are impossible, right? I apply every year knowing I'm not going to get one, but I keep applying anyway. Bear tags can feel like they're impossible, like Drummond Island. It could take 20 years to get a Drummond Island bear tag. I like to bear hunt too much to wait 20 years for a tag. That's not going to happen. So what I do, what I've learned recently, is I apply for the Newberry hunt, the 3rd season, because I hunt with my buddy Johnny Bowler. Now, I am likely to get a tag every other year there. Possibly, you could get one 2 years in a row. So you can apply online at michigan.gov/DNR. You can also use the DNR app and apply there. You can go into a license agent, but you have through the rest of the month of May to apply for a Michigan bear or an elk tag. And then make sure while you're at it, why don't you apply for a pure Michigan hunt as well? For $5, it'll get you that bear tag. It'll get you the elk tag, and you could have 2 bear tags or 2 elk tags in 1 year. How cool would that be? We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. And this week, he's going to talk about, can you cook a pigeon? The pigeons you see out by the barn. We'll find out after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. This segment brought to you by Suspension Max. When it was time to level out my new Garber Chevy ZR2, which I've got like 10,000 miles on it now. I've been driving it a lot. One place I was thinking of, Larry Verbowski and the guys at Suspension Max in Bay City, they can level your truck. They can lift your truck. They use really high-quality pieces, products. I mean, you're going to end up with better materials under your truck than you will when it comes out of the factory. Check them out online at suspensionmax.com. That's Max, M-A-X-X, suspensionmax.com. You know we wrap up each week's show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. Lately, people have been sending in some Ask Dave questions. And if you were with us last week, I posed the question to Dave, and I don't remember how this came in, whether it was a social media comment or an email, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who asked. But the question was, can you eat pigeons? You know, not mourning doves, but the pigeons you find out by the barn. Well, Dixie Dave is the guy to ask, and Dixie Dave is on our phone line right now. David, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
I'm very good, Michael, and yourself?
I'm doing great, but I've been thinking about this, and I think I know the answer to it, but what do you come up with, Dave?
Well, as a kid, we used to raise meat pigeons because our family really liked to eat them, and they're really big. They have really big breasts, and they taste great. But you get them right after the mother is done feeding them by beak, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So what we used to do is you boil some bacon, enough for the amount of pigeons you're going to do, about a half of a strip per bird breast. Skin them, breast them out, and check for the shot and the feathers. And then after you boil the bacon for a 2 or 3 minutes, you soak them in Italian dressing. You could do this overnight or just for a few hours just to impart some of that flavor. Grate some salt, black pepper over the top. And you want to barbecue these only to medium rare to medium, like you would, say, woodcock or dove or bobwhite quail. Same thing. You could do the same thing to them. And then I got a casserole recipe, and you need about 12 to 14 pigeon breasts, a large onion diced up fine, 3/4 of a cup of celery diced up fine, 3/4 of a cup of carrots diced up fine. You need a splash of Chardonnay or some kind of a white wine, a jar of chicken gravy, half a pound of seedless grapes. Rinse them off real good, check them, make sure they look real nice. A package of wild rice blend, and you want to bake that at the same time as we're going to bake the doves, so it comes out at the same time. Flour to dredge, olive oil to saute, basil to taste, black pepper to your taste, and a little bit of parsley if you so like. I would say after you check for shot, make sure there's no feathers driven into the meat. And you want to dredge them in flour in a hot saute pan, brown them on all sides. Arrange them breast side up in a casserole. And do this in small batches so that you're not going to crowd the pieces. Arrange them in an oven-proof casserole dish. And in the same pan, you can saute the onion, celery, carrots, basil, and for about 2 or 3 minutes just to break the flavor loose. Add the wine, reduce that by about, a quarter volume, so you got 3/4 left. Add the chicken gravy. Taste it. Make sure this is the kind of a flavor you're looking for. And I like a little bit of orange juice in this, too. It really brings out the flavor. So If you like, you can add some orange juice. And then while this is cooking, and then the pepper, the black pepper, the basil, and then put the grapes in, and then cover, bake 350 degrees, 45 minutes until very tender, maybe even a little more depending on the age of the birds. Put some of the wild rice blend on the plate, arrange the meat on top, spoon sauce over the top, and top with a little bit of parsley. Man, it's good, really good. You'd be surprised how good pigeon really is.
Well, and I found the email. It's from Jeremy Beebe, and he says a lot of plump pigeons on his dairy farm, and he says, are they good to eat? Well, you just answered the question, Dave, and I appreciate that very much. Isn't, by the way, squab is like baby pigeon, isn't it?
It's what I said. The mother regurgitates. It's called pigeon milk, actually. They regurgitate it down into the throat of the little pigeons. They come back as half-digested food that's in the crop, and she, feeds her babies that way. We always used to butcher our pigeons just before they were done with mother's milk, so to speak.
So you're eating the babies. You're not eating the big old plump, big ones you see sitting on a wire around the barn.
Well, yeah, we did both.
Okay.
We had them both. We shot a lot of pigeons. I grew up on a farm, and we shot a lot of pigeons, I'm telling you, as they come out of the barn.
Oh, the good old days. The good old days, hey, Dave?
Oh, my God.
All right, my friend.
410 double-barrel hammered shotgun.
I got to let you go, but thanks for the reminiscing and thanks for the recipes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. He's always got a recipe, and he's often got a story as well, and I love them both. Dave is a big part of the show, but you know what? You are too. I said that earlier, but without you listening, there'd be no reason for me to do this, and I'm not ready to stop. I will probably know when it's time, and it doesn't feel like it's time yet. Maybe God's got other plans, but we'll work our way through this. And again, I couldn't do it without you. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I want to see your pictures. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear your thoughts. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And I will talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.